Hello and welcome back to the Menopause Masterclasses. We are here in Module 3, so hopefully you've watched number 1 and 2, understanding a little bit more about how your body works and how to take control of your weight management and energy balance. In this module we're going to focus a little bit more about some of the specific symptoms and have a look at the research and how that indicates we can make some dietary and lifestyle changes in order to have a better quality of life. So let's kick off with thinking about our sleep. If we're not getting enough sleep, it's really going to affect our day-to-day life. So I think sleep is really, really important. And having a lack of estrogen can cause disturbed sleep. We also know that as people get older, often they need less sleep and often start to go to sleep a little bit later in the evening as well. So do listen to your body, have a think about what it's indicating about a new routine. Maybe things do need to change from your established routine for the last few years. Here's a few little tips if you're struggling to fall asleep that may just help. Try to eat early and avoid going to sleep on a full stomach, particularly with a slightly increased risk of abdominal fat, so fat around our middle. We don't want to be going to sleep with a full stomach. That's going to increase our chances of getting any acid reflux or indigestion. It's going to make us feel less comfortable when we lay down at night. So a nice early meal and feel settled before you head to bed. Milky drinks, having a glass of milk or hot cocoa before bed is something we often think about in childhood. And if we look at different research studies, there are a lot of studies to indicate that milk really does help us get to sleep. So try this one out, whether it's a cold or a hot drink, it doesn't really matter. Often just sitting and having a quiet moment with a drink and turning off the technology can also help. So having a hot drink or a milky drink in the evening might help you to just get off to sleep. Think about your sleep routine. Your body will do better if it has a set sleeping routine and a regular bedtime. It just helps your body clock to know when it starts to need to slow down and switch off and head off to sleep. So try to set yourself a routine that will work with your day-to-day routine. Stick to a similar bedtime as much as you can. Try and set a nice cool environment, particularly if you are finding that your temperature regulation has changed, you're getting any hot flushes or night sweats. A nice cool environment. Do you still need the duvet? Perhaps you find that your temperature control is different. I certainly found that I used to be a very cold person, and post-menopause I don't feel the cold as much as I used to. So a much thinner duvet, or in the summer just the duvet cover. Often we hear ladies talking about having their feet out of bed at night to try and stay cool. Think about the type of pillowcase you've got and your sheets. There's nice cool sheets and possibly even some softer bedding. You might want to get a mattress topper if your joints are a little bit achier than they used to be. So joint and bone soreness will also affect your sleep at night. Try to get a little bit of relaxation before bed rather than technology. Try to avoid scrolling through that phone, looking at the TV. These are things we hear about all the time. And often lifestyle changes are things that we know. We just need to take a little extra moment to concentrate and establish that new habit or routine. Hot flushes are probably one of the symptoms that we associate most with the menopause, and something that we often notice other women complaining about, or we end up chatting to other people about ourselves. Certainly if we're feeling anxious, this can increase the likelihood of having a hot flush. So if you're stressed or nervous or in a rush, this can affect it. So try and keep those stress levels as low as you can. Being on time, keeping a diary, managing your anxiety levels, taking a little bit of time out of the day if you need it. Prevention is going to be better than cure if you can. Phytoestrogens are natural estrogens within foods. They've got a very similar structure to the estrogen within our bodies. And these have been shown in some people to really help to maintain that estrogen level as we go through these changes and help to prevent particularly hot flushes. So again, there's several pieces of research that have shown that having more phytoestrogens in your regular diet can help. One of the main sources of phytoestrogens is soya and soya products. So this might be tofu, it could be soya milk, soya yogurts, soya chunks, and different vegetarian protein alternatives that are made out of soya. We've also seen that populations which have a naturally high soya intake, so particularly Asian communities that naturally eat a lot of soya, tend to have lower breast cancer rates. So at one point, there was confusion as to whether these phytoestrogens would increase or decrease the risk of breast cancer and whether they were safe for ladies who'd experienced breast cancer. And we're now seeing more and more research is suggesting they have a protective effect and that they are safe. So include some soya as often as you can. You might want to try a soya drink like a latte or something like that made out of soya if you don't like the taste of it on its own. But have a little experiment and see what you think. Chickpeas, peanuts, grapes and berries also have some natural phytoestrogens as well. Generally it's those nice sort of natural fruits and vegetables that we want to be trying to include. There was a study of 17,000 women and they found that the people who had the highest intakes of fruits, vegetables and soya had significantly reduced symptoms compared with the number of women who had lower intakes of these three foods. So we really have got the research to back up more fruits, more veggies, and including soya regularly in your diet is going to help. By regularly, I definitely say a few times a week. We haven't got research to suggest an exact dosage, but once a week is probably not going to be enough. Try and include it as a regular part of your daily habit. So whether it's a milky soya drink or some sort of vegetarian source of protein like some chickpeas or soya, most days would be really, really helpful. We need to also have a think about bone health. Not such a symptom. We don't always notice that our bones are getting thinner until much later in life. And one of the main risks is an increased risk of fractures. And this was one of the reasons that hormone replacement therapy ended up so popular in the early years. Interestingly, it was in the 1940s that HRT was first brought about into sort of regular circulation. There were a few scares in the 1970s where they were worried about side effects for HRT, but now we're understanding so much more about the safety and how to get the correct doses and the different formats that a short period of HRT can significantly have a benefit and outweigh any risks that might be associated with it. So when it comes to bone health, we can have some impact on our bone health through our diet and our lifestyle. Up until the age of 30, our bones are getting stronger, up until what we call our peak bone mass, which is our maximum bone strength at about 30 years of age. Unfortunately, after 30, our bones do not increase in strength, so our main goal is to maintain the strength which is already within them. Research is showing that higher intakes of animal protein as well as dairy has been linked to a better bone density. So it is really important. We mentioned protein in the weight management module, and we're seeing it again in the bone health section, just to make sure that we're getting enough protein. Generally speaking, your vegetarian protein sources are as good as your animal proteins, but interestingly, this piece of research specifically singled out animal protein. So if you are following a more flexitarian type diet and do enjoy some animal protein, don't feel guilty about doing that. I know that vegan and vegetarian diets are quite on trend these days, but including a bit of animal protein, whether it's some eggs or some dairy, can have real health benefits as well. We want to aim for about 1200 milligrams of calcium. This is the main mineral that builds up our bones. And you can see in this image some different sources of calcium and where we can get different amounts of calcium from. So generally speaking, a cup of milk is about 250 to 300 milligrams of calcium. If you're looking at an alternative plant-based milk like a soya or an almond or an oat milk, just have a look at the label and see if it's been fortified with calcium. Often it's fortified at a similar level to ordinary cow's milk. Tofu, excellent source of phytoestrogens and also an excellent source of calcium, something to experiment with perhaps. And then your green leafy vegetables are a source of calcium, as well as your almonds, and then your tinned fish, particularly where the bones are included. So canned salmon, mash up the bones and include them within your meal. And also your tinned oily fish like your pilchards and sardines where the bones are softened and included as well. So alongside calcium, you've probably heard that vitamin D is needed in order to help that calcium get into the bones. And we get the vitamin D from sunlight, from fortified margarines, and also from supplements as well. If you feel that your calcium intake is a little bit low, look for a calcium supplement which also has vitamin D in it as well. Something you can chat to your pharmacist or your GP about in order to get the levels correct. We don't really want to go above 2,000 milligrams of calcium a day in total. At this point, we can start to have some calcium depositing around our arteries and our heart valves. So there is a happy medium. We need to have adequate calcium, but try not to overdo it. Dairy has been linked to a 17% reduced risk of early menopause. So for those of you who have not yet started to go through the menopause, who have family, friends, daughters, including some dairy can be useful in this regard. What sort of foods should we be looking at limiting as we go through this stage in our lives? Some foods that we eat can worsen our symptoms. So particularly we know that added sugar, high sugar foods and high GI foods, so these are the simple sugars and the highly processed foods, these can increase your weight, increase your risk of diabetes, or if you have diabetes already, they'll make it much more difficult for you to manage your sugar levels. And interestingly, they've also been associated with hot flushes. So nice, slowly absorbed foods, nice even energy levels throughout the day are going to help you to feel a lot more even within your mood, reduce your hot flushes, keep your energy levels nice and even, and help to maintain your weight as well. So let's swap those high sugar drinks for low sugar options. Go for your whole grain and your reduced processed foods. So things which haven't been through quite so much processing tend to be lower in sugar and have a lower GI. How much alcohol do you drink at the moment? Have you ever thought about how many days a week you drink and how much you have? Certainly alcohol can increase your amount of calories within the week. So when we're looking at weight management, it can be an area to cut down, maybe reduce the number of days, reduce the amount you have, and also look for lower energy, lower calorie alternatives. And alcohol is one thing that a lot of women have noticed definitely increases hot flushes. You'll often hear people talking about red wine in particular, but it can be different for each individual. So have a think about alcoholic drinks, maybe even just make a little note. If you find you're getting hot flushes at certain times of the week or getting more night sweats, it could be related to alcohol intake. Maybe swap to a low alcohol version, have a soft drink in between your alcoholic drinks, drink plenty of water as well, and see if you can manage some of your symptom control through adjusting this a little bit. Different individuals have a different response to caffeine in their diet, so tea, coffee, chocolate, all high caffeine foods. Some people don't seem to have any impact at all. In a similar way to some of us can feel sort of heart palpitations and anxiety with too much caffeine, and other people can drink lots of caffeine with no response at all. If you're struggling with hot flushes or night sweats, think about your caffeine. Think about maybe not having anything caffeinated past midday. See if that makes a difference to your sleep in the evening and your quality of sleep. It may well make a big difference. And spicy foods are still sitting on the fence a little bit when it comes to research for spicy foods, but some people do find that the heat of hot foods can bring on a hot flush. Sometimes we need to differentiate between whether it's a hot flush or just that natural hot feeling from spicy foods. How intense is it? How long does it last? How much trouble does it give you? And are you finding that this feeling of heat is interrupting your sleep in the evenings as well? Something to bear in mind. So we've reached our final slide of the course, and I think it would be really helpful to think about some goal setting and work out which of the different bits of information are going to have the most relevance for you and your lifestyle. So I've got a suggestion here that you set yourself 3 goals. You could set some today and then maybe review them in a week's time. And then over the course of the next few weeks, next few months, you'll slowly be starting to build up some nice new habits that you can stick to for the rest of your life. So number 1, think of something you'd like to include. So something you'd like to have a little bit more often, having greater quantities, make sure that you've got in the cupboards a little bit more. So this could be around maybe your phytoestrogens, a little bit more soya. It could be more fruits, more vegetables. Perhaps you want to look at your protein intake, or even have a look at including more whole grains or low GI foods. feel free to sort of do a little bit more research into these different foods, but hopefully these modules have given you some good starting points on what you can include a little bit more of and how often. Number 2, think about something you'd like to limit. So something you'd like to have less often or in a smaller quantity. Obvious choices might be alcohol, caffeine, sugar, your high GI foods. It could be that you'd like to limit your carbohydrate portions in order to help with that insulin sensitivity and your weight management. And then thirdly, think about an active goal. So being more active. Think about how often you're active, what types of activity you're doing, who you could maybe include in order to make this a little bit easier for yourselves. So really wishing you all the best. I hope these goals are going to help you to have a more comfortable lifestyle, a better quality of life, and reduce any of the symptoms you might be experiencing. Wishing you all the best.